I saw my beautiful new book inside a famous store today. My proud name was not printed on the shiny cover. The rich man who stole my beautiful wife also stole my greatest masterpiece. But I am getting far ahead of my dark story. Let me tell you exactly how my entire life was completely destroyed. 5 long years ago, I was an incredibly happy man. I was married to a very beautiful, smart woman named Diana. We lived in a very small, cheap, quiet apartment together. I was a completely unknown, struggling writer with a massive dream. I worked incredibly hard on a special secret novel every single night. I poured my entire heavy soul into those delicate, thin paper pages. Diana always smiled and brought me hot, sweet coffee. I truly thought she believed in my amazing, bright future completely. I trusted her deeply with my whole entire innocent heart. But I was totally, absolutely, completely blind and very terribly foolish. She hated our simple, cheap, poor life incredibly deeply. One rainy, cold Tuesday, I returned home from my boring daytime job. I opened my thin front door and found a completely empty apartment. All her beautiful clothes and soft shoes were completely gone. My small wooden desk was totally incredibly empty too. A short white letter rested quietly on the cold kitchen counter. Diana wrote that she was leaving my sad, poor, boring life forever. She said she finally found a very rich, powerful, successful man. His name was Victor, and he owned a massive publishing company. She wrote that I would never become a famous, wealthy writer. She said my huge dreams were completely stupid and totally useless. I felt a very sharp, terrible, heavy pain inside my broken chest. But the absolute worst dark discovery was waiting in my bedroom. I ran toward my old wooden desk, completely terrified and panicked. My thick, heavy paper manuscript was absolutely, completely gone. I spent 5 long, difficult years writing that beautiful, perfect story. My cruel, greedy wife stole my only precious treasure completely. She did not take my hard work because she loved my story. She took it to give her new rich boyfriend a beautiful, massive gift. She knew the amazing story was incredibly valuable and truly special. She sold my bright future for a comfortable, easy life. I fell down on the cold, hard floor and cried very loudly. My beautiful, sweet wife betrayed my pure, trusting heart completely. My incredible masterpiece was stolen by a very cruel, greedy stranger. My long, terrible, dark nightmare was officially beginning today. 6 short months later, my beautiful story became incredibly, famously popular. It was printed with a beautiful, shiny, thick cover completely everywhere. But Victor printed his own arrogant name on the front page. He proudly told the whole world he wrote my amazing, special masterpiece. Diana stood right beside him, smiling proudly for the bright cameras. They looked like a perfectly happy, wealthy, successful, smart couple. I watched them on the bright television screen with pure, absolute dark anger. I wanted to scream loudly and break everything around me completely. I gathered every single cheap, shiny penny I saved for many years. I hired a very confident, smart lawyer to fight the terrible theft. I wanted to prove Victor was a dirty, lying criminal thief. I wanted my stolen masterpiece and my proud name back. But Victor was incredibly wealthy and very deeply, terribly powerful. He hired a massive army of the absolute best expensive lawyers. They easily crushed my small, weak, cheap legal case completely quickly. The serious judge dismissed my desperate, honest claims completely, totally, instantly. I lost all my hard-earned money in one single quiet morning. I lost my beautiful story and my clean, proud name completely forever. The heavy, terrible injustice crushed my tired soul into tiny broken pieces. I felt completely, entirely, totally hopeless and very deeply depressed. I started drinking cheap, strong, dark alcohol to forget my terrible pain. I drank from the early, bright morning until the late, dark night. The burning liquid helped me sleep and hide from the cruel, unfair world. My small, cheap apartment became incredibly dirty and totally messy. I stopped going to my boring daytime job completely, absolutely, entirely. I did not care about my hungry, tired, sick, weak body anymore. I walked through the busy city streets like a dirty, invisible ghost. People looked at my messy clothes and walked away very quickly. I was a completely broken, ruined, sad, pathetic, totally homeless man. Diana and Victor were living inside a massive, expensive, beautiful luxury mansion. They were spending my rich money and enjoying my bright, famous success. I was slowly dying alone in the cold, dark, wet shadows. Sometimes I stood outside large bookstores and looked through the clear glass. I saw tall towers of my beautiful stolen book everywhere. My twisted, angry heart burned with incredible, heavy, deep, painful fire. But the strong, cheap alcohol always pulled me back into the dark hole. I truly thought my sad, lonely, dark life was completely, totally over. I believed I would die quietly on the cold, hard, dirty street. The cruel, greedy thieves won the massive, huge war completely, perfectly, easily. But destiny was hiding a very strange, unexpected, beautiful surprise. One freezing wet night, I was wandering through a dark, quiet alley. The cold wind bit my dirty skin like sharp, angry, heavy teeth. I was looking for a dry, empty corner to sleep safely. Then I saw a small, messy pile of old, dumped trash. Something heavy and dark was hiding under a wet, dirty brown blanket. I pulled the heavy blanket away very slowly and carefully. A rusty, heavy old metal typewriter was sitting quietly in the cold dirt. The small round keys were incredibly dusty and completely, perfectly broken. I stared at the heavy old machine for a very long time. My frozen, dirty fingers gently touched the cold, hard metal keys. A very strange, warm, bright feeling suddenly sparked inside my tired chest. The old, dead writer inside my broken soul slowly woke up. I carried the heavy, dirty machine back to my small, cold room. I cleaned the rusty metal parts very carefully all night long. I fixed the broken keys with incredibly slow, careful, deep, quiet patience. I bought fresh black ink with my absolute last shiny coin. I loaded a clean white sheet of fresh, thin paper carefully. I pressed a single round key and heard a very loud click. The beautiful, sharp, loud sound echoed through the quiet, empty, dark room. It sounded exactly like pure, true, deep, absolutely perfect, bright magic. I looked at the cheap glass bottle of strong, dark brown alcohol. I grabbed the heavy glass bottle very firmly and angrily. I poured the burning poison down the dirty sink completely, entirely, instantly. I refused to let Diana and Victor destroy my beautiful, proud mind. They stole my first beautiful book and broke my innocent, trusting heart. But they absolutely could never steal my true, deep, pure talent. The amazing creative stories lived safely inside my own smart, active brain. I sat down at my small desk with pure, complete focus. I started typing incredibly fast on the heavy old loud metal machine. The beautiful new story poured out of my soul very easily. It was much deeper and incredibly much better than my first book. Every single quiet word carried my heavy pain and bright hope. I wrote about dark, cruel betrayal and incredible, strong, bright survival. I wrote about fighting terrible, ugly monsters and finding pure, quiet peace. I forgot to eat simple food or sleep in my warm, soft bed. The loud clicking sound was my only beautiful, happy music. I felt incredibly strong and completely, perfectly, absolutely, totally alive again. The old rusty machine was my beautiful, loyal, brave new best friend. I was finally building a massive, beautiful, brand new secret weapon today. My quiet, slow, beautiful, deep, silent revenge was officially finally beginning. I worked incredibly hard on my beautiful new masterpiece every single day. One full long year passed very quickly inside my tiny quiet room. The tall stack of typed white paper grew incredibly massive and heavy. My amazing grand story was almost perfectly, completely, totally finished. I felt pure, deep, absolute proud joy looking at the thick pages. I knew this brilliant story would touch millions of sad, tired hearts. I finally decided to sleep peacefully and finish the very last chapter tomorrow. I closed my heavy, tired, dry eyes very happily. I woke up suddenly in the absolute middle of the dark night. A very loud, terrible, harsh sound was screaming inside the entire building. The air was incredibly thick and completely, entirely, totally, terribly hot. I smelled heavy, dark, thick, dirty smoke everywhere around my face. A terrible, dangerous electrical fire started inside the old, dirty building walls. Bright orange and angry red flames danced loudly outside my thin door. The entire cheap, messy apartment building was burning incredibly fast and violently. I jumped out of my small bed in pure terror. I did not care about my cheap clothes or my old shoes. I only cared about my beautiful, precious, heavy, thick paper manuscript. I ran toward my small wooden desk through the thick, dark, dangerous smoke. The bright, hot, hungry fire was spreading across the walls. I grabbed the massive, heavy stack of white paper very desperately quickly. Suddenly, a burning piece of heavy wood fell from the dark ceiling. It hit my wooden desk and scattered my beautiful pages completely everywhere. The angry fire touched my precious hard work immediately, instantly. I screamed loudly and dropped to my knees on the hot floor. I gathered the burning pages with my bare, shaking, hot, bare hands. The hot flames burned my soft skin incredibly deeply and very painfully. I shoved the rescued papers inside my thick gray shirt. I ran through the burning bright hallway completely, absolutely, totally, blindly fast. I coughed violently and finally reached the cold, wet outside street safely. Loud sirens screamed as strong, brave firemen sprayed massive, heavy, cool water. I collapsed on the wet, dark, dirty street, incredibly exhausted. I pulled the thick paper stack out of my dark gray shirt. I cried massive, hot, wet tears of pure, absolute, dark, terrible agony. Over half of my beautiful, perfect, amazing story was completely burned away. The black, dirty ashes fell slowly through my shaking fingers. Cruel, dark fate tried to completely destroy my quiet, happy life again. My beautiful masterpiece was brutally torn into broken, useless, dirty, ugly pieces. I sat in the cold street and stared at the dark smoke. I felt completely, entirely, absolutely, totally, deeply empty and cold. The morning sun rose slowly over the wet, dirty, ruined, burned building. I sat on the cold street holding my half-burned paper manuscript. Any normal, tired, weak person would finally quit and cry forever today. They would surrender to the incredibly cruel, nasty, unfair world. But I was not a weak, sad, helpless, pathetic, broken man anymore. I survived a terrible, cruel betrayal and incredibly deep, dark, heavy depression. I survived the hungry, hot fire and saved my own breathing life. I refuse to let dark tragedy win the massive war. A kind local charity gave me a small, cheap, safe, warm room. They gave me a simple wooden table and a clean, soft bed. I carried my old, rusty, heavy typewriter into the new, quiet room. I placed the burned, destroyed black pages on the table. I closed my tired eyes and took a very deep, slow breath. I possessed an incredibly sharp, amazing, brilliant, perfect photographic memory. I remembered every single beautiful word I wrote over the last year. I remembered the exact quiet rhythm of my own special true heartbeat. I loaded a fresh, clean white paper into the heavy, loud machine. My burned, painful fingers pressed the round keys very slowly and carefully. The loud, sharp, clicking sound filled the quiet, empty new room instantly. I started typing my beautiful, ruined, lost chapters completely again. I worked day and night without stopping for simple rest or food. My painful red burns healed slowly while I typed incredibly, perfectly fast. The amazing story poured from my sharp, bright memory onto the page. I did not lose a single beautiful, quiet, important sentence. The heavy new stack of fresh, clean white paper grew very quickly. The story became even more beautiful and perfectly powerful the second time. The terrible hot fire actually purified my deep, heavy, sad, tired soul. It burned away my absolute last tiny fears and doubts. 3 quiet short months later, I typed the absolute final perfect word. I pulled the last white page from the old, rusty, heavy machine. I stacked the massive, thick manuscript perfectly straight on the clean table. My absolute greatest, beautiful, true masterpiece was totally, completely born. I held the heavy story against my chest and smiled incredibly proudly. This amazing, beautiful, perfect book belonged completely, absolutely, entirely to me forever. No greedy, arrogant thief could ever steal this deep, pure magic away. No angry hot fire could ever burn my brilliant mind. I was finally, totally, completely, absolutely ready to fight my quiet war. I knew exactly how to share my beautiful, amazing story safely today. I would never trust a greedy, corrupt, traditional publishing company ever again. My beautiful, quiet, slow, massive, invisible, silent revenge was prepared. I uploaded my beautiful new book to the internet quietly. I did not want to deal with any corrupt publishing companies. I offered my amazing story directly to normal, everyday readers. I priced the thick digital book very cheap for everyone. My beautiful, thick story spread across the world incredibly fast. Millions of hungry readers bought my special digital book immediately. They shared my brave, emotional words with all their close friends. The powerful, amazing story touched their heavy, sad hearts. People loved the deep, pure, honest pain inside my chapters. They felt the bright, warm hope hiding in every single sentence. The internet was completely filled with incredibly wonderful, perfect reviews. My quiet, unknown name became incredibly famous completely overnight. Large traditional bookstores begged me to sell printed paper copies. Famous rich movie directors wanted to film my amazing, beautiful story. I hired a very smart, loyal legal team to manage my business. I kept total, absolute, complete control over my precious, heavy work. Heavy, massive rivers of clean, honest money flowed toward me. I earned many millions of rich dollars in a very short time. My bank account grew incredibly huge and totally, perfectly secure. I never had to worry about cheap, cold food again. I moved out of my cheap, tiny, dark-smelling room safely. I bought a huge, beautiful, quiet, comfortable, secure luxury mansion. The large, safe house had tall green trees and bright flowers. I finally had a true, peaceful, warm, beautiful, perfect home. I placed my loyal, rusty old typewriter on a large wooden desk. I touched the heavy, broken metal keys very incredibly gently. This cheap, ugly machine saved my tired, broken, sad life completely. I owed my entire happy, bright future to this rusty friend. I hired private investigators to watch my old, cruel enemies. I wanted to know exactly what Victor and Diana were doing. I knew my massive global success would make them incredibly angry. The bright, shining light always hurts dirty, guilty, dark thieves. I survived the cold, dirty streets and the dangerous hot fire. I survived the absolute worst, ugly, cruel betrayal from my wife. I built my massive, rich, beautiful empire with pure, honest talent. My quiet, slow, invisible secret revenge was growing incredibly strong today. I drank hot, sweet coffee and read my beautiful printed book. I felt incredibly proud of my difficult, long, hard, dark journey. My tired, sad soul was finally, perfectly, completely, totally healed safely. I was absolutely ready for the next exciting, heavy final chapter. While I enjoyed my beautiful, bright success, my enemies suffered terribly. Victor's massive publishing company started failing incredibly quickly and violently. He was a terribly arrogant boss and a totally foolish businessman. He made incredibly stupid, expensive choices every single day. His company published many incredibly boring, cheap, ugly, bad books. Normal smart readers completely stopped buying his terrible, useless, heavy products. His massive, rich company lost many millions of dollars very quickly. Victor panicked completely and made even more stupid decisions. He tried to steal more hidden secret stories from unknown writers. But smart young writers knew about his dirty, dark, cruel reputation. They absolutely, completely refused to work with his failing, corrupt company. He had absolutely zero fresh, good talent to sell today. Then a massive, terrible, dark legal storm hit his rich company. Several angry, famous writers sued Victor for stealing their hard work. They hired incredibly smart, expensive, powerful lawyers to destroy him completely. Victor had to spend his entire fortune fighting these strict judges. His massive luxury empire was slowly burning to the ground completely. Diana watched her rich, comfortable, easy life disappear incredibly fast. She married Victor to enjoy massive, expensive, beautiful, endless, lazy luxury. Now she was completely drowning in terrible, heavy, dark, scary debt. She screamed loudly at Victor inside their huge, empty, cold mansion. They fought violently about missing money and unpaid, expensive monthly bills. Their fake, plastic, toxic, romantic marriage cracked into tiny, broken pieces. True, pure, deep love cannot survive without rich, easy, shiny money. My private investigators sent me detailed, quiet reports every single week. I read about their terrible, heavy, massive failures with pure joy. I did not have to do absolutely anything to destroy them. Their own cruel, greedy, arrogant choices destroyed their lives completely naturally. Victor started selling his expensive, shiny luxury cars to pay lawyers. He sold his huge, beautiful boats and his expensive gold watches. He looked incredibly tired and very deeply, completely, totally sick today. His fake, proud, arrogant, confident smile vanished entirely forever. Diana realized she made the absolute worst mistake of her life. She left a loyal, talented, loving husband for a failing, arrogant thief. Now her first husband was a famous, rich, incredibly successful millionaire. Her new husband was a completely broken, poor, ruined, desperate man. I watched their dark, ugly world collapse from my safe mansion. I drank cold sweet water and smiled a very peaceful, quiet smile. Karma is a very patient, quiet, slow, beautiful, perfect, invisible hunter. The heavy, painful, tragic consequences were finally catching them completely today. One bright sunny Tuesday morning, my heavy front gate bell rang. My strong private security guards called my phone very quickly immediately. They said a very desperate crying woman wanted to see me. I already knew exactly who was waiting outside my house. I told my strong guards to open the heavy metal gates. I watched Diana walk slowly up my long, clean, quiet driveway. She wore old, dirty clothes and looked incredibly messy and sick. She did not look like a beautiful, proud, wealthy queen anymore. I opened my heavy wooden front door and stood perfectly still. Diana looked at my clean, expensive clothes and my huge mansion. Her tired eyes grew incredibly wide with pure, absolute, total shock. She finally saw my massive, incredible, heavy, beautiful, true success. She suddenly dropped down onto her weak, shaking, thin, tired knees. She started crying massive, hot, wet, dirty tears on my clean floor. She begged me to forgive her terrible, ugly, dark, past mistakes. She said she was incredibly stupid and totally, completely foolish. I looked down at her crying face with cold, quiet, empty eyes. I did not feel any sad pity or warm, kind sympathy. I remembered her cruel, cold letter and my stolen, heavy manuscript. I stayed completely, perfectly, absolutely silent and totally, completely calm. Diana told me her new family was completely, entirely, totally ruined. She said Victor was absolutely broke and going to dark prison soon. She told me they had absolutely zero money for basic cheap food. She tried to use fake sad tears to trap my mind. Then she asked me for an incredibly crazy, stupid, ridiculous favor. She begged me to sign my new famous book to Victor Company. She wanted me to give them my beautiful masterpiece for $0. She said my massive global success could save her failing family completely. She actually expected me to rescue the man who stole my life. She wanted me to surrender my hard work to a dirty thief. Her massive, ugly, toxic, heavy, pure greed was incredibly, truly shocking. She still thought I was a weak, blind, foolish, trusting man. I looked at the pathetic, broken, crying, miserable, sick woman carefully. She thought her fake romantic tears would melt my frozen dark heart. She thought I still loved her beautiful, empty, fake plastic face. She was completely, entirely, absolutely, totally, deeply, incredibly wrong today. I did not scream loudly or use any terrible, ugly, bad words. I simply took a very deep, quiet, slow, calm, peaceful breath. I was absolutely ready to deliver my firm, strict, cold, final answer. I was ready to close this dark, painful, ugly chapter forever. I looked directly into her crying, desperate, dark, cold, empty eyes. I told her I would never give my beautiful book to Victor. I said her terrible, massive failure was absolutely none of my business. I ordered my strong, heavy security guards to throw her outside completely. Diana stopped crying instantly and her face turned incredibly angry and red. She screamed terrible, loud, nasty, cruel, ugly words at my calm face. She promised to make me suffer incredibly deeply for my cold refusal. The guards dragged her weak, kicking body away from my quiet property. 2 short weeks later, I received a very shocking official legal letter. Diana and Victor decided to sue me in a serious formal court. They officially claimed my amazing new book was actually stolen from Victor. They lied and said I signed a secret contract many years ago. Their crazy, ridiculous, fake legal claim was incredibly stupid and totally, completely absurd. They wanted to steal my new beautiful millions of rich dollars completely. They were totally desperately hungry for cash and absolutely completely crazy. They wanted to destroy my clean, proud, honest name again. My smart, expensive, loyal legal team laughed at their weak, stupid lawsuit. We gathered massive mountains of pure, solid, true, absolute, clean evidence. We had my old rusty typewriter and my half-burned original paper pages. I had hundreds of clean, honest witnesses to prove my pure talent. We walked into the large, quiet, serious, bright city courtroom very confidently. Victor looked incredibly nervous and terribly sick sitting across the wide room. Diana refused to look directly at my calm, quiet, peaceful face today. They knew they were playing a very dangerous, fatal, dark game. My brilliant, smart lawyers destroyed their weak, fake, dirty lies completely instantly. We proved Victor was a total fraud and a desperate broke thief. The strict, serious, angry judge looked at Victor with pure, absolute, total disgust. The cruel, arrogant liar was finally completely, totally exposed publicly. The strict judge dismissed their crazy, stupid, desperate, fake lawsuit totally instantly. But my smart legal team did not stop the heavy fight there. We countersued them for massive, terrible, heavy emotional damage and total fraud. We demanded millions of dollars for stealing my very first book. The angry, serious judge agreed with my honest, clean, true legal case. He ordered Victor and Diana to pay me massive, huge, heavy penalties. They owed me millions of dollars they absolutely, completely, totally did not have. Their fake, desperate lawsuit became their absolute, final, deadly, ultimate mistake. Victor terrible failing publishing company filed for total, complete, absolute bankruptcy immediately. He could not pay the massive, heavy legal penalties to my bank. His entire fake, rich, beautiful business empire completely surrendered to the court. The official city bank put his broken, empty company up for sale. I used my massive, clean, honest, rich money to buy his company. I bought the entire broken publishing business for incredibly cheap pennies. I became the absolute, total, supreme boss of the man who ruined me. My invisible, quiet, slow, perfect, sweet revenge was almost completely finished. I walked into the massive, tall glass publishing building early Monday morning. I wore a beautiful, expensive, clean, dark suit and shiny black shoes. I walked directly into Victor's large, fancy corner executive office very calmly. He was packing his cheap things into a small brown box. He looked up and saw me standing perfectly still inside his door. His face turned incredibly pale white and totally, completely, absolutely terrified today. I smiled a very tiny, small, quiet, peaceful, cold, clean, happy smile. I officially fired him from his own dead, broken company instantly. I told him he was completely, permanently banned from the entire building. My strong, heavy security guards escorted his shaking body outside very quickly. I took my beautiful stolen first book and removed his fake, dirty name. I finally printed my own proud, honest, true name perfectly everywhere. Diana and Victor lost absolutely every single shiny penny they ever possessed. The bank took their huge, massive luxury mansion and their expensive cars. They became totally, completely, totally, absolutely, permanently homeless on the cold street. They had to sleep under dirty, dark bridges in the freezing rain. Diana tasted the exact same terrible, cold, freezing, bitter pain I survived. She lost her beautiful, warm house because of her own greedy, toxic choices. Victor faced many long, dark, terrible years inside a cold, quiet prison. The angry local police finally arrested him for massive financial fraud. I completely rebuilt the broken publishing company into a massive honest success. I only published beautiful true stories from unknown hard-working talented writers. I protected innocent young artists from cruel greedy dark monsters like Victor. My new clean business grew incredibly wonderfully fast every single day. I placed my loyal rusty old heavy typewriter in my large office. I looked at the old broken metal keys and smiled very warmly happily. I survived the absolute worst dark terrible cruel winter storm completely perfectly. I built a beautiful bright happy empire from dirty gray ashes. True ultimate perfect revenge is never about loud screaming or terrible violence. True sweet revenge is watching cruel toxic thieves destroy themselves completely naturally. True absolute revenge is living an incredibly happy, powerful, rich, successful, honest life. My beautiful, quiet, brave, bright rebirth was my absolute final victory.